to where Death Holler brought us. Season 3, Slash or Pass. It became the classic horror film podcast of its time. And now Death Holler brings us the most shocking season ever. Season 4, Dead or Dead.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Imagine, if you will, that one of the hosts is absolutely terrified of zombies.
So, what's the plan? Bash him in the head, that seems to work out.
Now, accept the fact there is no escaping this horror. Death Holler brings back the dead. Remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is advised. With hospitality like this, you'll never want to leave. We hope you stay alive.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Death Holler. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Death, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Llareyna. Tell me, Llareyna, do you want to party? Because it's party time.
No, I do not want to party. I want to go home, as a matter of fact.
Come on now. It's America's birthday. It's time to celebrate.
It is America's birthday. You would think that I would like America's birthday just a little more. I don't hate it. I don't know. I think, it's California. It's the bullshit. Thank God everyone breaks the law every year and we get fun fireworks. But if it weren't for those God-loving people that love this country so damn much, they're willing to break the laws to make it fun, I tell you, my 4th of July would be boring as hell. We can't do anything fun.
Sparklers and snakes, huh? Is that what you get?
Pretty much. And then our fireworks are just like little flaccid. They need Blue Chew. They need some Viagra. They are flaccid as hell. However, for all the listeners, anyone who's in California, and this is legal, so I am very comfortable sharing this on our podcast. You can go onto weddingcelebrations.com or weddingsparklers.com. And you can order wedding sparklers, and they are 3-foot-long metal sparklers. Do with that information what you will.
We're not, lawyers here. We don't offer legal advice, so.
Nope, but they are legal. It's legal to have those. I would not say anything illegal, especially in California. You buy them online, they ship them to your house. I'm sure if your state doesn't allow it, they won't allow that. But in California, it is legal to have those. And yes, you can light them up at weddings.
We just have people go across the state lines into Tennessee and get whatever they want whenever they want. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, same for Nevada, I suppose. That's the closest to what we have. Nevada ain't stupid, though. They're smart. They have these, I'm going to go with ceramic or something kind of casings that they put their fireworks in so that when they do eventually fall, if they fall and land onto a house, it's in that kind of shell and it'll just break on top of the house. But instead of actually, instead of catching the house on fire, it's less of a risk. My hubby was telling me about that.
I bet you all don't have the best fireworks, which are the Appalachian specials with just going outside and shooting a gun into the air.
No, we have to drive a good half hour, 45 minutes into the quotation mark country, the California country for that. And even then you still have to be careful. So it ain't the real deal, folks.
Reminder to anybody, shoot at an angle. You don't want to shoot straight up.
Exactly. God, people are, oh my God.
Anyways, fireworks, pool parties, brains. Yep, we are covering the 4th of July zombie classic, Return of the Living Dead. Originally conceived as a film about zombie death cults, which popped up years after Night of the Living Dead, the story was thankfully given to Alien writer Dan O'Bannon, who made a horror comedy classic about teenage punks, brain-eating zombies, and female nudity. God bless America.
The trifecta.
God bless America.
Yes.
So put on some sunscreen, stay hydrated, and avoid trioxin at all costs as we review this genre-defining film. But first, if you're enjoying the podcast, we'd appreciate it if you could take the time to like, comment, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Helps us get more visibility on podcast listings and helps us grow. Also, consider following us on social media. You can find us on TikTok and Twitter under Death Holler Pod, and we can be found on Instagram and Facebook under Death Holler Podcast. We appreciate everyone who listens and hope you enjoy the show. Return of the Living Dead, 1985. Tagline, they're back from the grave and ready to party.
It actually works. I'm not even gonna pretend with that one.
It does for this film.
Yeah.
Directed by Dan O'Bannon. I think it's his first directorial film, or role. He primarily was a writer other than that, and he's wrote some damn good movies. Written by Rudy Ricci, Russell Striner, and John A. Russo. Hence what I was talking about, the zombie death cult. So for background, John Russo, whenever him and George Romero split and decided to go two different ways with Of the Living Dead or whatever, sequels that they did, Romero obviously went Of the Dead and then made all of his movies, and Russo decided to do Of the Living Dead and made a bunch of these movies. His original concept he made in a novel called Return of the Living Dead was set, I don't know, like a decade or two after the original Night of the Living Dead, and it was about these death cults that popped up that basically recognized that zombies could happen at any time. And so they had this process of staking in the brain anybody who was buried or something like that. And it was a story. There's more to it, and I'll get to it in the trivia, but that's what it started as. And when he sold the rights to the name, at least to one of the producers, they looked at it and said, yeah, this is dull as dishwater. We're going to go with something else. And just basically took the name, gave it to Dan O'Bannon, and he made what you got today.
Okay. I mean, I'm not upset with what it's turned into. The other stuff sounds like it almost sounds like there could be the same thing for vampires.
It basically was a twist on vampires.
Okay.
It was almost like we talked about how vampires inspired Romero, at least to a certain degree, with The Last Man on Earth, the Omega Man, I Am Legend, basically. It's almost like it went full circle with Russo back to vampires or something similar to it.
Okay, that's... I don't know. I don't know why I'm having a hard time comprehending how they took that and came up with this. However, I'm not upset with... Right now we're reviewing Return of the Living Dead, 1985. Part 2 and Part 3, I remember those. Well, I watched Part 2 recently, actually. So
yes.
I took it further than just Return of the Living Dead, y'all. I never do that. I actually watched Part 2 as well. And I remember Part 3. Part 3 was one of my favorites. From what I remember, I have not watched that one recently.
That's a lot of guys' favorites, too. We'll get to that whenever we cover it, though.
I'm sure it is much like this one is. Part 2 didn't have a lot of action that y'all are looking for.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't even have really a good-looking female in the movie. And if it's got that quirky doctor and the little kid is what I remember from Part 2.
Not a lot of eye candy for men or women.
No. unless Tom Matthews being a zombie and willingly allowing him to eat your brains is your thing. You get that in part 2, and that, I mean, hey, more power to you.
Yeah, I feel like you get that. I feel like I've seen a few zombie movies now that's been a thing. Consent, folks. It's important. We're here for it.
Music by Matt Clifford, made for a budget of $4 million. It made $14.2 million. So pretty
Nice.
good turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, it made triple its budget, which we've talked about.
And it's went on to just be a phenomenal success on home media. I mean, it's every time that it comes out, like, people buy it in droves.
That's wild.
Principal players, we have Clu Gallagher playing Bert, the owner of Unita Medical, who is a man of action. He's knocking zombie heads off with baseball bats and putting basically a pike, through their head. I mean, he's doing it all in this movie.
He's also using a whole ass roll of paper towels to wipe something clean.
No, that's Frank. We'll get to him in a second.
Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, Bert's the owner of the place that gets pissed off whenever he finds out what they did.
Yes.
Also, a little bit of trivia: Clu Gallagher was really pissed off at Dan O'Bannon because Dan O'Bannon apparently was kind of an ass as a director, and we'll get to in the trivia. They had to take away real weapons and give him rubber weapons because he would throw things at Dan O'Bannon or try to hit him with them because he pissed him off so bad.
What the hell?
This has the most contentious backstory to like how it was made about any film that I've ever heard. Like, they said that it was more like a war zone trying to make this film just because of all the people getting pissed at each other during the making of it.
Oh my God.
They fired the guy who made the original zombie that popped up out of the ground, the one that says, "Are you ready to party?" The one that's mostly a skeleton with eyes. They fired him right after that scene because they thought that skeleton or zombie looked like shit. The actors didn't get along, a few of them. Dan O'Bannon really pissed off one of the actresses, Beverly Randolph, because of some shit that he did to her, and it's pretty bad, and we'll get to it. And then, of course, he pissed off Clu Gallagher. They almost didn't even start the movie because when Romero was making Dawn of the Dead, around the same time that they were trying to get this made, Romero and Russo were perfectly cool with each other. They said, "You go do your own thing. I'm cool with making my own." Except that Rubenstein, who was the producer for Dawn of the Dead, turned around and told Russo, "If you try to make this fucking movie and you put Of Any Dead on it, I'm going to sue your ass."
Fuck.
And so they had to go to court and prove that Romero, whose film it was like, "Yeah, make his movie. I like the guy. We don't have a problem."
Jesus, fuck.
It was just like one thing after another trying to make this movie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it continued on. So, you know how you're like rewatching something and you're like, "Oh my God, I hope they make it out." But you've seen this movie 2 or 3 times and you know they make it out. I'm on the edge right now. Like, oh my God, did everything turn out okay? Yeah, I fucking know how it turned out.
Last time I watched this, I thought I was cool this movie, that I could just endure it and not have a problem with it. I got tense again watching it this time, and I'm just like, fuck, this movie's never going to let me go. It's every time I watch it.
Oh my God.
Clu Gallagher's been in a bunch of stuff, but Feast is a pretty good movie that he did like toward the end of his career that was really fun, had a bunch of people in it, even had Jason Mewes from, Jay and Silent Bob, he in the beginning of the film at least. And of course he was in Nightmare on Elm Street. That's where he was the father of Jesse, the closeted gay main character, the Scream Queen, who was attacked by the evil bird and actually in real life got his eyes scratched or something like that. So Clu Gallagher's been through it. Don Calfa plays Ernie. Get it? Bert and Ernie.
Yes, that was so annoying, honestly.
The mortician at Resurrection Mortuary. That's kind of on the nose. He was in Weekend at Bernie's, which is not a documentary about the current American politics and in particular the presidency, but it could be.
Close enough. It was foretelling for sure.
The second one for sure, where Bernie becomes a zombie, which, is its own thing. And Necronomicon Book of the Dead, which when you see that name, you're like, okay, they knew that Raimi decided not to go with that name because of, his producer talked him out of it. And they were like, yeah, we'll use it. We'll make a movie out of that.
It sucks because I hear that and I'm like, Evil Dead?
Yeah.
And then you probably watch it and you're expecting to kind of see that and it doesn't happen.
It's probably related to, I've not looked at the movie, but my guess is being like a C or Z grade movie that it's probably related to H.P. Lovecraft, because like the copyright on that stuff went out a long time ago and they make anything out of his stuff now. James Karen plays Frank, the senior employee at UNITA and a married man. Make sure he takes that ring off before he toasts his ass at the end of the movie. He's the main guy in Poltergeist, the one that promised Coach that they moved the bodies. They just moved the tombstones, folks. Tom Matthews plays Freddy, the young punk who just wants Tina and her lovely, lovely, lovely brains. Mm-hmm. He's the best Tommy Jarvis.
Yes.
If you remember.
Yes.
He will always be our Tommy Jarvis in this series, or in this podcast.
Yes.
Beverly Randolph plays Tina, the preppy girlfriend of Freddy. She's in a movie in 2022 called Sacred Grounds Forbidden, which for the name, like, has no hints that it's about Bigfoot, but it actually has like Zach Galligan, the main actor from Gremlins.
Yes.
It has him and it has her in it and a few more people, and it's got like an 8 rating out of 10 on IMDb, which
that's pretty good for having
surprising.
Some old fucking actors. Not, I wouldn't say, well, I don't want to say old, but I mean, like, they're not too well known, maybe by people like us, but these kids these days, shakes my fist.
Get off our lawn.
Yeah.
Linnea Quigley plays
heard of
Trash.
her. Yeah, she did.
And them titties.
Just as I suspected. Trash.
She even says that in the interview. She says that she thought the name was originally they were going to call the character Legs because we'll get into the reason why. We're going to call he had a stripper in mind. Dan O'Bannon did to play the part. She turned it down. Then he was going to turn it over to Jewel Shepard, who was also a stripper. We'll get to her in a second. She said, "No, I'm tired of being naked.
Okay.
I just want to be a party chick." And Linnea Quigley, who knew both Jewel Shepard and the casting director, because the casting director was the same one as Silent Night, Deadly Night, was like, "Yeah, I'll show everything." And they were like, "Hell yeah, you will."
And show everything she did. There was a scene, and I'm sure you have all her fucking scenes stamped in your brain. There's a scene where I almost thought we were going to see her asshole, literally.
It was getting close.
Yeah, when she was running up the stairs, I was like, oh, okay, well, we didn't see the chocolate starfish, but we almost did, folks.
The best part is hearing the guys describe that day that they filmed that. Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who we'll get to in a second, who plays Spider, said that his favorite thing that he ever saw while filming any movie was her titties. Clu Gallagher said that she really got into the part. He said, really look at that scene where she's next to Suicide, big, leather-bound guy. She has got his dick in her hand.
Yes, I figured as much, yeah.
And she is riding him like in that scene. He said, he it's funny. Clu Gallagher's one of those guys that has like that weird sense of humor that's really funny. You just got to know that he's being, facetious when he says the stuff. He's like, she's a consummate actress. He said she gives everything to her part.
Oh my God.
She did in that scene.
As for poor, what's his name? The guy she's fucking rubbing on. He must have had a hard time. Literally.
Real hard time. Yeah. Miguel A. Nunez Jr. plays Spider, who is Prince if he was punk, basically, in this movie. We remember him fondly from Friday the 13th, Part 5, and those damn enchiladas.
Oh, my God. No.
Jewel Shepard plays Casey, the punk chick who isn't digging Chuck, and, she just doesn't care for him, thinks he's a poser, and he kind of is. Stripper, folks. Former stripper, Dan O'Bannon I'll get to it in the trivia. He struck up a conversation with her. He bought her a lot of drugs, which she was cool with. And whenever he cast this movie, she's like, hell yeah, I'll play the punk chick or the party girl. And she made a bunch of other movies like Hollywood Hot Tubs and Caged Heat 2, Stripped of Freedom. So there you go.
Okay, so she didn't want to be naked in this film, but I'm assuming she was naked in those.
Probably, yes.
Way to go.
Wait till you hear her description of that. She low key throws down on Linnea Quigley at the same time as like really boosting herself up. It is hilarious whenever I get to trivia.
Okay.
And her quote about all of that.
Oh my God. Okay, I can't wait. I love tea.
John Philbin, who plays Chuck, is the nerdy punk / poser. He was in Children of the Corn and Point Break.
Wow, two pretty damn good movies.
Yeah, really good. He got into fights with Jewel Shepard because they had a lot of scenes together, and he basically said she couldn't act, and he was trying to give her lessons on how to do it, and she was just dissing him the entire time, and he basically told her to fuck off. So like they were supposed to be kind of together in the movie, and they were at odds in real life.
I 100% believe that because she's a fucking not porn star. She's a fucking stripper. She doesn't take her clothes off.
Not only that, when you listen to her talk, she is so full of herself. She is really full of herself. Brian Peck plays Scuzz, the Mohawk punk who gets a little off the top whenever the zombified, half corpse comes rolling in through the window. Mm-hmm. He's been in lots of minor parts. He's actually in both Return of the Living Dead 2 and 3 in like very small minor roles, like, in the background. And then rounding out the cast, without counting all the zombies and all that stuff, is Mark Venturini, who played Suicide, the leather-clad punk, who I have to question the character's sexuality, because if I had Linnea Quigley, the way she was, grinding on me and rubbing me down, I wouldn't be sitting there worried about that people didn't respect how I dressed and that she was doing that in a cemetery. Just saying.
He was a very good actor. He was a very good actor, because I was watching that and I was like, no man in this world. In fact, I'm pretty sure y'all were very angry at him.
Yes.
You're like, how could you disrespect this lady like that? Lady of the night, but nonetheless.
He was also in Friday the 13th Part 5. So it's like 3 of the people in this movie went on to be in Part 5 and Part 6 of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I remember Spider. Hold on. I just want to...
He played a character named Victor, I believe, in that movie.
Yeah, okay, yes. Which is, for some reason I was thinking burritos, but now the enchiladas, yeah, he was in the fucking outhouse and everything.
Yes, that, ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
Oh, my God.
That's the one.
Well, he's taking a fucking hot shit.
And then he gets a machete through his back while he's taking a dump.
Ooh.
I hate to see it.
Yeah.
Synopsis: July 3rd, 1984, Louisville, Kentucky. A couple of bored medical supply workers investigate some trioxin samples in the basement and unleash the chemical that inspired that movie about cannibalistic corpses. Nearby in the local cemetery, a gang of teenage punks are partying, waiting for their friend to get off work. When the trioxin is released in the clouds from a crematorium, all hell rains down on Kentuckiana. Trash is filthy and fine. Frank and Freddie are losing their minds, and all Tarman wants is more brains.
Tarman is gross.
You have to admit, he is one of the standout zombies in any movie, though. Like, he really leaves an impression.
Yeah, you would recognize him in any movie and just be like, holy shit, that's fucking Tarman,
That zombie scared me to no end as a kid.
I don't like it.
I mean, even to this day, whenever he pops up, especially that scene where Suicide pulls back the curtain and he's right there, it gets me every fucking time. I'm like, get out of that goddamn basement. Get away from that son of a bitch. I don't care if you get ate by the old man zombie that wants more cops outside. He's at least, he looks like a kind old grandpa. Get the fuck away from Tarman. He's wrong. All of it.
Yeah. And I was like, when Tina was stuck in the little cages, if you will.
Oh God. And he was so smart about pulling that door off too.
Yes, not only that, but like you could see him through the holes. That would have been my fucking nightmare. It's one thing to be chased by a zombie, but at this point, she's not even just being chased; she's being hunted. Like she's literally caged meat.
Yes,
It's
stripped of freedom.
Oh God.
Yeah, we'll get to more about that stuff here in a second. Some quotes first. Suicide. You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life. As he's getting, Linnea Quigley's meat ground all over him.
Yeah.
Again,
if the tables were turned and he was doing to her what she was doing to him, he'd be giving her the dick down. I guess she was giving him the tit down. I don't know.
She had all the stuff grinding on him. It wasn't just her tits. Let's be honest.
It was a tit for tat, and she deserved a lot of tat for what she had to give. So,
Frank, speaking to Freddie at the beginning of the movie, international treaty, all skeletons come from India. Freddie, no kidding. How come? Frank, how the hell do I know how come? The important question is, where do they get all the skeletons with the perfect teeth?
oh,
That's a good question. That is a fucking, where do they get, and the funny thing is that question was actually asked by Toby Hooper in a prior film that Karen had worked on. I believe it was Poltergeist, because they were talking about the skeletons they were using in that movie that they put in the pool. That's a good fucking question. Why do they have perfect teeth? Are they harvesting bodies intentionally? They're not waiting till these people get old and harvesting them.
yeah. That's okay. Well, you got me thinking
it's
now.
It's really creepy.
Yeah.
It's really creepy. The zombie, of course, the famous one, send more paramedics.
I thought he said send more cops.
There is another one
Okay.
that says send more cops, but the one really stretches it out for the paramedics.
Wow, yeah.
And he has a demonic voice when he says it, too. It creeps me the fuck out.
Yeah, I don't like it. Not a fan.
The one that says send more cops is the kindly old grandpa that I was talking about, and he's just got that whispery voice. It's like,
yes.
Send more cops.
Yeah, he had a little bit more soothing voice. It was friendly. He was very polite when he asked.
He was, and he was dressed as a cop, so it was fine. He was just wanted more of his own kind.
Yeah.
Bert Wilson, I thought you said if we destroyed the brain, it'd die. Frank, it worked in the movie. Bert, well, it ain't working now, Frank. And then Freddie, you mean the movie lied?
Yeah, I don't like that they couldn't be destroyed by the brain. I was very confused. So I felt like watching this very random things killed them.
Nothing killed them in this movie, to be perfectly honest, outside of burning them to ash.
That's true. If anything, it more or less just slowed them down. But you're right, it didn't kill them. That was the next movie, but okay.
The only movie in the series that gives a definite way that they die that I'm aware of, because it's been a while since I watched part 3, is part 2 with electricity. We'll get to that.
Well,
but
part 3, I guess, never mind, you're right, because in this one they get incinerated, technically. Okay, something happens in this movie. But in part 3, yes, I remember the girl and her boyfriend dying in the flames together.
Yeah,
so it was
fire and electricity are the ways to get rid of them.
Not a fan of that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a lot more comfortable with a axe to the head or a gunshot to the head.
Listen, these are the worst possible scenario of zombies.
Tell me about it.
First of all, them running, that's strike number 1. Strike number 2, unlike 28 days later, you can't just wait them out. They'll live forever. I
don't like it.
And the thing that creeps me out is the fact they can talk and they're smart.
Yes.
Those are both bad, really bad, because the talking, especially Tom Matthews toward the end of this movie, and I do have the quote, that is the creepiest fucking shit when he's looking for Tina. It still creeps me out to this day. I mean, because he goes from being this joke in the movie to the end when he's like the acid in his eyes. He is one of the creepiest zombies in the movie at that point.
Yeah.
Just because what he says.
Oof. Yeah.
And then all those people just in a mass, just screaming brains like that. Mm-hmm. It's still, that's bad. I mean, that just activates all kinds of like trauma for me watching that.
It'll drive you crazy, actually.
Trash, do you ever wonder about all the different ways of dying, violently, and wonder like what would be the most horrible way to die? Spider, I try not to think too much about dying. And then Trash is like, well, for me, the worst way would be for a bunch of old men to get around me and start biting and eating me alive.
Very foretelling.
But foreshadowing, folks.
Yes.
And while she's saying that, she's getting horny as hell and then pulls her shirt off for the best scene in the movie.
You guys, I swear to God.
Frank, watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job. And then Freddie, like this job. That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, just as far as comedy, just because they've been sprayed with trioxin. And it's like Frank's trying to still sell him like this is the best thing ever. And he's like, what the fuck? We just saw Trash at the beginning of it. I like death. Chuck, I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death? Casey, yeah, so fuck off and die.
Ooh.
That's basically her character in the movie.
That's a good one.
That's what you get out of it.
Yeah.
And then Freddie to Tina, which is the part that gets me every time. Gee, and now you made me hurt myself again. You made me break my hand completely off this time, Tina. But I don't care, darling, because I love you, and you're going to let me eat your brains. Where are you? God, when he's doing that, and like she's up there with Ernie or whatever, and they're just waiting to basically die. It's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed in that scene, but Ernie has his gun ready to put a bullet in Tina's head if he breaks in through that trap door or whatever.
Wait, what? I missed that. Who?
Ernie has his gun cocked and ready to put a bullet in Tina's brain to keep her from getting eaten by Freddie if he breaks through.
Well, I mean, it's an act of mercy.
It is. It's the best way to go out in that situation.
I mean, does he have enough bullets to kill himself too? Because I feel like at that point, you know.
According to Linnea Quigley, he did not. He only had one bullet left.
Oh, shit. Okay. Damn, I missed that. How does she fucking become the leader at the end? Is it because her titties?
What's that?
How does she become the leader at the end? Is it just like, is it because her titties?
Yeah, and the fact that her fucking jaw, like, I mean, she's fucking scary. Like, Tom is the creepiest because what he says. She's the scariest zombie in the movie outside of Tarman, just because you see her and you're like, okay, I see some titties, and all of a sudden that jaw just drops down and your whole entire fucking head disappears.
Mm-hmm. Not the fun one, folks.
No.
The one sitting on your
She's
shoulders.
She's deep throwing you in the wrong way.
Yeah, she's giving you head. Actually, you're giving her head. Your head in her mouth.
Yes. All right, visually, speaking of her and that costume, and the zombies in the movie, some of the yellow zombie at the beginning of it, I'm not the biggest fan of.
That was horrible.
It's just yeah. But Tarman, what'd you think of the one lady that was on the medical gurney or whatever that Ernie's talking to, and she says that the pain of rotting is why they need brains.
I thought that was actually very amazing, considering the time, because this was 1985, and I'm surprised you didn't have her quote in there, because that was pretty significant. If anything, it's like it gives them the answers they need, but also it's kind of like, it's almost like doom and gloom. It's like, well, fuck, like they're not going to stop. They're in horrible pain. They're going to do whatever it takes to not be in pain, but the look of her, the movement, I'm impressed, especially for the time. She reminds me of the zombie
having her spinal cord flop so loudly on the gurney whenever it rolls over. That was pretty nerve-wracking too.
Yeah. She reminds me of the zombie at the beginning of The Walking Dead. The torso zombie that's crawling in through the field that Rick sees.
Yes.
Yeah, they definitely modeled it after her.
Which, speaking of that, these are wet zombies versus the dry zombies in The Walking Dead. They're a little bit difference in their design, but something I didn't notice until I was watching the special features. If you look at that gurney where her spinal cord's at, it's leaking spinal fluid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's gross.
Like I said, they're wet zombies. They had all kinds of fluids everywhere. But yeah, I bring her up because I feel like that puppetry they did on that was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
As far as like, the effects work, and then even the effects they did on Tom Matthews whenever him and Franklin are turning, because they look like death warmed over for most of the movie, and it gets worse as the movie goes through.
And it starts pretty early. Like they start looking sick almost instantly.
Yes. Can't wait till we debate their characters in the second movie, which are basically the same exact characters, just in a different scenario.
100%.
There's even a ring involved, which is hilarious. The fact that the ring comes back in a different way. But yeah, visually, a lot of night shots, and some of them are a little bit darker, but that cemetery, I love the way that they did that cemetery. I mean, just the way that the gravestones are all crowded together, and it looks really ancient and old. Like they really added the creep factor to that on the set dressing too.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt about that, but I mean, that and having the punk like graffiti on the gate leading into it kind of gave you like both like it, how old the cemetery was, but also like the state of like the area they were in. Like, it was kind of a downtrodden, disrespectful teenagers, that sort of thing.
Well, the thing about the visuals in this film is that what I was looking for, because I'm apparently not a good person, is I was thinking, well, this is from 1985, so I was kind of looking for set pieces or just anything in general that looked cheap or fake or really poorly put together, like, kind of hastily put together to kind of just have something there, and I didn't really get that. Because I'll qualify. There probably might have been a thing or two, but I think there was so much action happening nonstop with me on edge that I didn't concentrate on that. And I was even more impressed in the second one after. Not to we're not reviewing that one, but like they did really good. They got only slightly better every time. So I don't know. Well, I'm sure in part 3, I don't remember the zombie so much. I remember the girl. Who doesn't remember her? I don't really remember the other zombies. I'm sure they looked a lot better though.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know if the zombies really like gained as much like definition as they did in the Romero movies, where they went from like just the blue, paint zombies to basically the zombies that you get in Day of the Dead, which are some of the best out there. But like this one started off right off the bat having some very distinctive looks for their zombies that made them stand out versus Romero's. And one of the things that I didn't know was that Dan O'Bannon actually, to give Romero his own credit and to differentiate the movies, he did not want his zombies to have like the bloody wounds to show how they died, like Romero always did.
Okay, I mean, and that's not bad. I mean, they had a little bit different effect. God, I think this was the second. I'm probably thinking of the second film, but not second film, but Return of the Living Dead 2. The lady that had worms coming out of her face was kind of cool. But I think that was just an effect of the zombies getting slightly better every time. I don't think these zombies, like I said, we talked about the yellow zombie. I don't know what the fuck was going on with that one because the rest of them looked pretty damn good.
Well, that is because the guy who originally was doing the special effects work was fired, and he was the one that started out with that zombie, and all the zombies you see at the end are the new effects people.
Oh yeah, but still,
because the producer and Dan O'Bannon wanted their zombies to look more like the Tar Man and the ones that you see like Muddy or whatever that are coming up out of the graves toward the end of the movie, and they kept telling that original guy that, and he just wasn't getting it. Like he could not get, he's just like, well, what if I put a little bit of this on there? And they're like, that looks like a fresh corpse. Like, what are you doing? Like, and he's like, but it'll look better at night than it will during the day. And they're like, no, it looks like shit. Get the fuck out of here. And then they got the zombies they wanted.
Yeah. I mean, the first guy, the cadaver, if you will, just looked like he had severe jaundice.
Yeah, that's what he looked like, and it made no sense why he looked the way he did.
It looked horrible. And his skin was too nice, too. Like, we almost got to see that person's butthole, too.
Yeah, and when they cut his head off, the rubbery, it's even worse in 4K, like the rubbery look of like how his neck is when it's being, chopped off. I don't know. That one's the only one that really stands out as being bad in the entire movie to me. Like the rest of them, they're so quick, and the darkness helps cover up a lot of their stuff, that you just see a bunch of people running, and that's all you need. Whenever they say brains, you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like that's all you need.
The only thing is Linnea Quigley didn't really look like a zombie to me. She looked more like a monster. That'll be my only, like, and that's not even a huge complaint, but she looked kind of demon-esque, you know?
Yes, and that's the thing. She looks like a demon, like straight up.
A deadite.
The blue skin, the extended jaw, everything about her. She looks more like a demon than she does a zombie in the movie.
That blue skin was pretty. It looked good on her, though.
Yeah. Well, the initial scene where she takes her clothes off and the way that they lit that, where she was glistening, looked pretty damn good too. But that's how other argument.
You need help. You and every guy that watches this every time. I saw a comment where a guy said he probably jerked out a rope of semen to fucking this movie every time he watched it.
Well, I mean, at least he's being honest with himself, I guess.
Yes, I am fully aware he's being honest. I'm like, oh my God. And I know it's every guy.
I was watching this movie and I realized, first of all, why alternative goth adjacent thoughts are so popular on the internet now. Also amongst guys my age, why they appeal to us, because of Linnea Quigley. I mean, her punk look in this is basically what they're imitating if you look at how they're dressed. Oh. And so all you thoughts out there that are alternative, you send a thank you note to Linnea Quigley. That's the reason you have a paycheck coming in from simpy guys, is because of her.
Oh my God. I don't know. Like, she came up, I don't know. Her body is one thing. I do not like her hair in this, and I'm sure that's
her hair looks awful.
Oh, thank you. Does. Okay, good. I'm like, I know you guys could care less about her hair. That's not what you're looking at.
But her body in this, I mean, like, this is probably the best she looked in any movie she ever did nude scenes in, like, hands down. Like, I mean, doesn't have, I mean, not to, objectify her any more than what she is in the movie, but doesn't have a much cake, as it were, not much back there, but like.
It wasn't bad. She didn't have a flat ass, because I thought that. There was a movie. Was it the one, Silent Night? Was that the one she was in?
Yes.
Was she extra skinny in that or something? Because, like, her titties were bigger in this, and I know that's possible with surgery, but I don't think, it's hard. I can't tell with her if she's had surgery or not. Maybe over the years she did. But she had Nasitol, a bad case of it.
Yeah, and she's got a little bit more in this movie. Like, she's packing in both areas versus a Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is hilarious because they came out pretty close together. So I don't know if she took some money and just ate some more, or she actually went and got some surgery done. But kudos to her surgeon. It looks pretty good. Yeah. Whatever they did. But what did you think about the story? I mean, visually, we both agree that the zombies look pretty good and the set dressing and all that. But I mean, did you think that them linking it back to the original Night of the Living Dead in universe is basically like the movie was based on real stuff? How'd you feel about that?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I was Googling this movie, everyone wants to know what was real about this movie, in which I'm sure we could kind of come into just not even looking into it, not even getting too deep into it, knowing, oh, well, military, anything. Oh, fuck, we got a fucking Area 51, which scares the fuck out of me, because I always say that I know that this shit is possible. Not a fan. So the storyline is really cool. I think the movie is, how do I want to say this? I guess to say it the only way I can think of that's coming to my head right now. Dumbed down enough to make it not excessively scary to me, where I have dread in my heart. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really like the storyline. I think that actually done differently now with a lot more dread, it could be a movie that I would not want to watch again.
I don't think anybody would watch it if it didn't have a little bit of comedy in it.
Yes.
Because This movie's rough. Like, it leans way more into the horror than it does the comedy by a long shot. Like, the comedy comes in the, interactions amongst people as far as their verbal dialogue, but the things happening in the movie are all bad.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing, funny about anything that's happening to anybody in this movie. What I was going to bring up, though, is at the beginning of the movie, I really, really like that scene between Frank and Freddie whenever they're sitting there and he's like, have you seen anything weird in this place? And he tells him the whole story about how they got the trioxin barrels, how there was really Night of the Living Dead was based upon like this, leak at a clinic or whatever, and all the bodies in the morgue came to life, and they sent the bodies there and they by mistake and all this stuff. Like, the way they frame that scene and the way he's telling the story, you're as on edge as Tom Matthews' character Freddie listening to it. So whenever that phone rings, you just jump out of your skin. Like, they did a really good job of just two guys talking, like selling like the what you're getting ready to get into.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not disagreeing, but I don't know why. Like, I didn't take it as, I don't know. It didn't affect me that bad, is what I should say.
You've not been scarred by this movie.
I have not, apparently. I have not. So, I will say this, because it's the only thing I have in comparison right now to let people know, okay, well, was this movie scary or anything? I know I'm going to rate the movie eventually. We're going to get to that point. I told you from what I remember, I don't remember this movie being a zomcom. You told me that it was, and I actually still stand by that. I think there was more drama in this than there was com. There was definitely some comedic relief. I'm not going to take away from that, but the fucking real comedy comes in the next one, in Return of the Living Dead 2.
The Sega was goofy as fuck. That's the one that I could watch more as a kid because it actually allowed me to get through the trauma of this movie. Okay. Because the Sega one is so stupid that it allows me to go back and watch this, and I'm just like, I can kind of no fuck Tarman. No.
Exactly. And
that's basically how I am.
Tarman gave me nightmares. So I want to make sure I lay that out flat. Like, this movie was not without its scares. I just usually have a lot more dread. Like, Walking Dead gave me dread. Dawn of the Dead gives me dread. And you would think this movie would give me more dread based off of the ending, Yeah,
I don't know how you don't have dread, because the whole entire movie, people are trapped. It's getting worse and worse outside. No matter who is sent in, they all die. The zombies are everywhere. And at the end of it, a nuke is the only solution. And if the end of the movie is, to be believed, that just sets off even more dead bodies being reanimated.
They get their zombie chocolate rain,
Let me set the scenario for where I was at when I watched this movie. First of all,
wait, when you first watched it or when you rewatched it?
When I first watched it.
Okay.
I was 11 years old.
Damn, you're old.
Bad time to watch this movie. Linnea Quigley, obviously, at an impressionable age, set me on a path, and that's all I could say about that. But having said that, and seeing those glorious titties at that age, here I was, 11 years old. This movie says it's based upon real events and real people. I mean, it goes so far as to say that they didn't even change the fucking names. Now, it's all bullshit.
Okay,
but you can't tell that to a kid, not that age. So I'm sitting here watching this thinking this is really fucking happening. As scary as this fucking movie is, it gets to the end of the movie, and then the guy mentions, he said, yeah, it's all happening in, he says Louisville, Kentucky, which is Louisville, but that's fine. He's from California. It's to be expected.
That's okay, because I taught the husband how to say Louisville, so.
So it's in Louisville, Kentucky, and I hear him say that, and I freak the fuck out. I'm like, this shit happened in Louisville. Like, I didn't, and I don't think I paid attention to the fact that it said 1984. I thought this shit was happening like, just a few years before when I watched it. So I'm freaking out over this stuff, which sounds ridiculous, but I'm a kid. And then I have the worst nightmare of my entire fucking life to this day, because that's the one I told you about that is the double nightmare. I'm being eaten alive by zombies in the nightmare.
Nope.
I wake up. I'm in my room. It's perfectly replicated. Like there is no difference from when I was, I'll be awake and when I'm asleep. I happen to glance up. The tar man, looking just like he does behind you, looks down at me, says brains, and starts leaning to eat my head. And then I wake up a second time.
Oh, that is some bull fucking shit. That is mental torture right there.
So, yes, this movie fucked me up in a lot of ways.
Damn. Maybe I didn't watch this at young of enough age. I don't know how old I was when I watched this. I will tell you this. I must have been tormented enough. Maybe I watched this and you know how they say you get so scared, you forget things. Like it's taken from your memory because it was just like so traumatic.
Yes.
Your brain has to like forget it for you to kind of move on.
At a much younger age, I think my brain did that with Return to Oz, but yes.
Okay. I don't remember Linnea Quigley's scene ever. I'm going to be real honest with you guys. I never even tried to seek it out after you and Noah kept talking about it. So this was technically the first time on the rewatch that I saw the whole scene.
And it goes on and on. Like you think that her nudity ends.
It doesn't.
Nope, she's nude for the rest of the movie.
Yes. Well, I mean, she covers herself up for a brief second, but she doesn't cover everything. The titties are still on full display.
Yeah. Even when she's running away from the tar man in that one scene and she's running up the steps and when you see the chocolate starfish.
Almost see the chocolate starfish. I was looking. We didn't quite catch it, but I was I was shocked. I was like, holy crap, she really is naked. We didn't see any hole or anything. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. It was tastefully done on how... Hold on. I'm gonna pause this podcast for a second because my husband's calling and he keeps calling and I have to make sure nothing's wrong. Hello? Hey, what's going on? Pretty good. I'm in the middle of a podcast. Did you not get my text? Oh, okay. Well, you should read those. All right, baby. I love you. Bye. Good news, folks. He's not dead. Anyways, back to what we were discussing.
So they tastefully done is what you started to say.
It was all tastefully done because even though, and I'm sure you'll get into trivia about certain areas that had to be modified.
Yes.
She is her perfect little whisper down there. God's perfect whisper is how Hugh Hefner preferred his models to look. And if you didn't look like Linnea Quigley looked with her vanilla wafers slapped together ever so gently, they would tuck you for pictures. Nothing was ever to be out. No roast beef. So I was surprised because as much as she was climbing up on things and she was dancing up high, we saw her run up the stairs. We got some in between the leg shots. We didn't get any X-rated, if you will. We just saw slits, butt crack and front crack.
You don't see much of the front slit, and I'll tell you, and we'll get to that in trivia why that is.
Okay.
But yeah, they Barbied her. They made a special prosthetic so that she would not have her piece down there, basically.
That's weird. Yeah, I know you talked about it a little bit, and we'll get into that, but that is so funny. I'll discuss further as we get there.
But the fact that, just going back to the story, I relate all that to say that as a kid, when it said it was based on real events, and then everything that happens in the movie, and then find out it was the only movie that I'm aware of that's set in Kentucky, like horror movie-wise, for sure. Haunt is, I think, but that's an independent movie that just came out a few years ago. But still, like, it's the only one that was at the time. I'm just like, I'm terrified. And even to this day, this movie is traumatizing to me to watch because I even with a comedy, I'll sit there and I'll laugh at some of the stuff that Frank and Freddie will say to each other. But I'm dreading every moment that they are getting ready to be attacked by either a zombie or in particular go down that fucking basement again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, do not go down there with him. Don't
do it.
And the funny thing is that part 2 it helped me get through the trauma of this movie.
I could absolutely see that happening. I don't think I was young enough to watch this to be so traumatized, unless I was, and I don't remember. But it was, for me, it was the Night of the Living Dead, not so much the original, but the remake. That was my trauma, and that one's not even half as scary as this one.
And the funniest thing is that I saw this movie before I saw any of Romero's movies.
Okay.
Any of them. So
God.
when I went back and I watched his movies, this actually is what made me obsessed with zombies in a roundabout way, because I was forever seeking a way to both get as scared as I was, which is weird to say, but that's what horror fans do. And I was also trying to seek some kind of like, when they say like you face your fears type thing, to get over your phobias, you've got to face them full on. That's why I delved into zombie movies as much as I have, because like this is the first movie that scared me as bad as it, and probably no movie will ever scare me as bad as this movie did, honestly, because it hit at just the right time and it was just the right scenario that I'm always chasing that dragon, as it were, that high of being that scared, because I don't think I can be.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that is, it's funny because it's not me. But to be fair, you get to laugh at everything else, because I get literally scared by everything else. And my husband won't let me hide that.
Yeah, and see, this has numbed me to the point that I'm not scared by much of anything now as far as a horror movie goes. Yeah,
man, that's insane how fucking messed up that was. I think my parents were I'm guessing that at some point, I just had night terrors so bad. I mean, we know what kind of a dreamer I am, and I've been since I was a child. But, like, they probably were just like, you know what? We just can't let her, like, we just can't let her watch these movies, because it'll come alive in her head, in her dreams. Whereas my kids, as far as I know, I've rarely had a child walk into my room with a bad dream. Benicio, never. Nona, once in a while, but for the most part, she says she doesn't dream. And I'm like, can I live that life? You know, can I be like, I dream every single, folks, I dream every night. I remember at least one of my dreams. So it is, I
dream every night as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the same boat.
People think it's cool, and I'm here to tell you, I don't think it is. Reverend, I don't know how you feel about it, but that's a whole different topic for another day.
It just seems normal to me. So when people say they don't, I don't know how they function, because it helps separate time for me. Like if I didn't have that in between, like I don't like, the one time that I didn't dream was when they put me to sleep for like some kind of procedure. I had
that's
surgery.
The best sleep I've ever had.
No, it was the worst for me, because I woke up immediately and I'm like, where's that time? The time disappeared. Like when I'm dreaming, then the space is filled in my head. So the time is, accounted for. But with that, it wasn't. It was just like I time traveled or something.
See, that it was so opposite for me. I woke up. They woke me up. It was calm. I was relaxed. They told me that I was coughing. My bad. But other than that, I was like, I felt so rejuvenated, because my dreams are so fucking vivid, are so fucking intense, that most of the time I feel like I've been running around. I wake up feeling tired because I feel like I've been running around in my head all night. Where it's gotten better though. It's gotten better. But that's where a person like me comes in and is like, this isn't fun,
See, I have the opposite. It's like my brain takes random stupid things from the day, makes some kind of thing for me to watch and say, enjoy this nonsense. And I'm like, that was interesting. And then I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the day. That was different. You know?
Oh my God. I'm a snorter. Oh, this is hella funny. Anyways. All right.
But yeah, it's really weird. I know for people to, it's like, well, if this movie scared you so bad, why do you love zombie movies? Because it scared me so bad. That's the reason.
I don't love zombie films, but I will watch a zombie movie, and it's fun to be scared. Like, I don't know how to explain it to people. Like, people who are just like, oh, nothing scares me. I'm like, I mean, well, fancy pants, Miss Rich McGee over here. Fuck you, But I'm like, how boring is that? It's kind of like you saying not dreaming, like. You're not scared by anything, not even like the element of surprise kind of scare that you get at haunted houses, because I'm like, that's got to be so fucking boring. I love being scared. It gets the heart rate going, It's exciting.
Yeah. And it's a high that you're forever chasing as a horror movie fan that it just where you get so numb to. It's just like, please, for the love of God, something scare me once.
Yeah.
Which I have had recent movies do that, so, or at least put me on edge. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's not like it's completely gone for me. So there's that.
Yeah.
But the previous two movies, just for reference, that I had before watching this that were in the horror field, maybe besides Frankenstein, that I always hold that up as one of my favorites, just because that was the one that I did watch quite a bit as a kid, is Return to Oz, which was so terrifying to my small brain at the time that I watched that, because I watched it at a really young age, probably like 6 or 7, that I couldn't remember anything about the movie other than there was a talking moose head and some weird rock monster man, and that's all I could remember, and it gave me nightmares for years, just vague nightmares of those two things.
Do I need to watch that movie?
But besides that, the only other thing that I'd watched was Monster Squad, which is the total opposite.
I remember
as far
Monster
as,
Squad. Yeah.
I rented that movie so many times that I should have just outright had my parents buy it for me, but from the movie place. But those were the two movies before I watched this, and it was all downhill afterward.
Yeah.
Or uphill, wherever you want to look at it. But yeah, that's story-wise, I think the fact that they linked it back to the original movie works, and they keep the locations really tight. They only have, like the cemetery, the mortuary, and Unita are the only 3 places really in the movie, with a few outside shots with the cops and the streets and all that. And it's good too, because they filmed it in California, even though it's set in Kentucky, and keeping it, in those 3 locations, you don't have the problem of a palm tree showing up, which ruins everything when they do that.
Okay, now you're just being disrespectful.
It's watch Nightmare on Elm Street, and then when they say it's in Ohio, and then there's a palm tree in the background.
But I live in California. I don't know that there's no palm trees in Ohio, except for you telling me there's no palm trees in Ohio. I see a palm tree, and I'm like, cool. And to be fair, actually, I should kind of look at that and be like, that's Southern California, because except for my neighborhood, which is hilarious that we're talking about palm trees that they're lined in my neighborhood. One of these days it's going to fall over and destroy like 7 or 8 homes in one swoop, but that's neither here nor there.
Your forest out there, especially in Northern California, are also the complete opposite of our forest here. And every time that you try to claim that you're in Appalachia and you're showing me these forests that are completely clean and there's no undergrowth, I'm like, the fuck you are. Get the fuck out of here. That is not Appalachia.
We don't have forests out here. We have wooded areas. I think it's dramatically different. We have camping areas that are technically called forests, but yeah, they're very well maintained. Anyways, the palm trees, other than my neighborhood, I'm in Northern California, there's really no palm trees out here. There's Southern California, actually.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny too, in the movie there is a palm tree, and I was about to call bullshit on it, but it's in California where the military guy's at, and I'm like, okay, that's forgiven, because they can show it there. It's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
But they stuck to just the urban location. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, the place that they chose in like Southern California to film this, which I can't remember where that's at, it looks close enough to how shitty Louisville actually looks. And no offense to people who lives in Louisville, I just don't like going there ever. It looks bad enough that I'm like, that could be Louisville. Good job. You picked a good location. It even has a bridge in the background. That's all you need, because that's all you really see when you're in Louisville. You see that big bridge that goes across the I can't remember which river it is. It's not the Ohio River. It's the one on the other side. But anyways, maybe the Kentucky River, the one that goes over to Indiana. It's like, okay, that could function as that bridge. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Oh my God, that's hella funny. It's funny that it's a place in California. You're like, yeah, that can pass for Kentucky.
Louisville, it's a different place. It's not. There's a lot of people that don't technically say that say that it should be part of Indiana more than it should be part of Kentucky.
It's Indiana or is it
People
Kentucky?
in Louisville, what's that?
Is it Indiana or is it Kentucky? I thought it was Kentucky.
Louisville's in Kentucky, but it's right on the border, and there's a lot of people both in Louisville and in the other parts of the state that kind of wish Indiana would just take it.
Oh, that's so funny. Kind of like us in San Francisco.
Probably.
We're like,
yes.
Can't it just break off and be its own place in the sea?
I'll just say this. The chances for certain politicians of a non-red persuasion to ever get elected in this state would go down dramatically if Indiana was to take on Louisville. Just saying.
Yeef.
Acting wise, what did you feel like? Did you feel like there was any duds as far as the actors in the movie?
The acting to me was very Kmart.
I think that's the charm of the movie, though, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys had entertainment. You had titties and buttholes and stuff like that. For me, the most entertaining was the zombies, because to me they were pretty good. They were pretty scary. There was the perfect element of fear, honestly, from them. Not dread, but fear enough, to keep me on my toes, and a lot of action. But yeah, the acting I wasn't particularly a fan from. Now, was it the worst? Absolutely not. But yeah, it definitely.
My favorite acting in the movie is Clu Gallagher and probably Tom Matthews, because Tom Matthews does a pretty good pivot from being just comic relief to actually being scary toward the end of the movie.
Yeah, he is a little bit of the exception. So,
and we got to give credit, as much as I hate to say it, to Tarman, the actor who did the puppeteer, who actually did his movements and everything that was in that suit. He makes that character by just the way he moves in that suit, the way he swings his head, the way he kind of lumbers around. So I give him credit for his acting as far as that particular zombie too. But you're right. Even like Linnea Quigley, she's only there for her tits, honestly. Her like trash in general, like, it's very monotone. But I think that's what they wanted her to be, because she's kind of like that. I don't care about anything. I'm just about death, so
yeah.
She's leaning into the part more than anything.
She was like, did they base Lydia Dietz, of course, not naked, but did they base her dread and like morbid self off of that character?
It's the same type of character, is all I'll say, even if it's not like in the same wheelhouse. Music. You can't talk about this movie without talking about the music. It is punk music heaven in this movie.
Yes. And definitely 80s synthesizers. I mean, come on now. The main theme,
but even just like the our party time is by the something 45s or something like that is the main theme when all the stuff happens in the cemetery. That scene with Linnea Quigley when she's doing her dancing, that I can't remember the name of that song, but that one's pretty famous by a lot of people. There's the Surfing Dead or something by that name later on in the movie, when all the shit's happening outside and Ernie's like trying to rush and get up in the attic and all that. So there's a lot of major punk music pieces in this movie, and they add to the scenes. Like, you would think that wouldn't make any sense for this movie whatsoever, like punk music in a zombie movie, but it actually, the beat of the songs actually makes your heart beat faster in what they're showing on screen at the same time.
It definitely adds, and in a good way. Now, I'm saying this as a compliment. It didn't stand out negatively. So, because sometimes music stands out and you're like, oh, that does not belong here. I didn't feel that way about the music in this.
Is there anything in particular about the actual movie that, like, or a scene in particular that stood out to you or anything like that?
Let me think. You mean besides Tarman? Because I can't think of anything else.
Tarman and titties are the two things that stand out about this movie.
Yes, that's for you. I'm trying to think of anything else, but no, there really wasn't any other scene that stuck out to me. Tarman it just stays with me. I mean, I guess maybe Linnea Quigley fucking mouth unhinging, jaw unhinging to bite them. And I was like, what the fuck?
Creepy.
I was surprised. I was like, what the fuck? I actually rewound it 2 or 3 times to rewatch. Like, did I see what I think I saw? Like I said, she didn't look like a zombie. She looked like a monster.
What did you think about the scene where Frank, instead of becoming a full-on zombie, just cremates himself?
It was an act of mercy to himself. He knew what was going to happen. I hate to say this, I wasn't surprised that he did that. I was wondering how long he was going to withhold himself from turning, though.
Yeah, I thought he'd already turned at that point because, of course, Freddie already had Tom Matthews' character, but
yeah, well, but he had control of himself. Yeah.
Yeah, he had enough control that he was still calling the shots.
It reminds me of part 3, where obviously she has to constantly pierce her skin because it helps. I don't know. Pain helps the pain. I don't know. It prevents her from eating.
Here's the reason why I think that works. This goes into the movie. So Dan O'Bannon had the idea that the reason brains were the things that they wanted to eat was because brains had endorphins. Endorphins are the body's natural opiates.
Oh, yeah.
That's what your body uses to numb pain. So it's basically like they're drug users. All the zombies are basically seeking a drug, and that happens to be brains because of the endorphins. In that movie where she's piercing herself, she's releasing what little endorphins she has left every time she pierces herself, because there's that whole thing about like tattoos. That's the reason people get addicted to them, is because the pain releases a flood of endorphins, and then that people kind of get addicted to that rush of endorphins.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense, especially for when I was getting piercings and tattoos. It was a pretty lonely part of my life, if you will, trying to figure myself out too. So you could say in a way I was depressed, and I just loved the rush of the piercings and the tattoos. That makes so much fucking sense.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
That's why she does it. So
Okay.
And they started it in this movie. I mean, it's a good explanation for why they eat. Like Romero's doesn't really give a reason why they eat flesh. It's just kind of like what they remember they should do.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's just like they do it specifically because that good scene where that half-rotted corpse is like, we feel the pain of rotting. We are aching, constantly.
Could you imagine the endorphins that's fucking flowing through the brain anyways, because they're dealing with the pain of getting torn apart?
There's that rush that's coming out, and probably a bunch like all the other like fear hormones.
That's what I was wondering. Fear kind of triggered that. That's kind of cool. It did. Frank taking himself into the fire did remind me of the girl from part 3. So that was one thing. When I saw that, I was like, I kind of recall this.
The reason I bring that up is because Linnea Quigley mentions that, and she says she actually almost tears up every time she sees that scene, because like the way that he lays his like ring specifically on the, and all that, and he's doing it, to try to protect other people from him. And I was just like, yeah, I get that. That's a interesting way to interpret that.
Well, they can still think, as we've discussed. So he has in his head, this is going to hurt a lot less than me living a life of trying to alleviate. How many alive people are going to be left in this town, So it's going to be a lifetime of pain and trying to figure out the next thing to help him. I don't want to live like that.
Yeah, and also the actor very smartly was like, I don't want my character just to be a random zombie standing outside waiting for the nukes to drop, so I want to go out in a memorable scene.
I like it. It makes,
And he proposed all that to Dan O'Bannon and said, I want to go out like this. And Dan O'Bannon's like, but how would your character know how to operate the crematorium? And he said, easy, just go back a couple. And they'd added this a couple scenes earlier where he's talking to Freddie, and he's like, I could operate that thing if I had to. He says that line in the movie to set up the fact that later on he does it, which is pretty good. Something else I forgot about the visuals. That scene where they pull up Tom Matthews and he's got that blood pooling on his back, that is so nasty and so realistic looking. You remember what I'm talking about? Like he's been laying there in Tina's arms and he's like aching and shivering, and they lift him up and look at his back, and it's just all bruised and stuff from where the blood is pooling.
Yeah, I don't like it.
As far as other things in the movie, it's just that intro where even though I don't like the zombie, that one zombie running out and immediately attacking Bert is kind of etched in my brain permanently too, because it's just so quick. Like as soon as he opens the door, he like shoot. And the funny thing is, I didn't think about this. Somebody else mentioned it, I think, in the trivia. The reason he goes after Bert is because the zombie recognizes that the two other losers in that room are already dead.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
All right, let's move on to trivia. The filmmakers had to get approval from Lysol to have Frank spray away the stench of death with their product. But, quote, they liked the idea that Lysol would kill any conceivable odor, so that's why they let them have it.
I like the idea that Lysol could potentially kill the infectious disease. It does not, folks, but it is kind of funny. So was he actually spraying Lysol? I didn't see the can, so I didn't know if it was something generic.
It was brand Lysol.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm fucking talking about. Good for Lysol. You know what? All these other companies that are like, I don't want to be in your zombie movie. It doesn't represent who we are as people. Shut the fuck up and get some fucking advertising. Because you know what? All these fans that see your shit, like in Zombieland, we saw Gap, we saw everything. Now, I'm not really shopping at Gap. But, however, I would consider, because they considered putting themselves out there in a scary movie.
Unlike Starbucks, you have to put Heavenly Grounds in the movie instead.
Hallowed Grounds. And
Hallowed Grounds, yeah.
Now I want a Hallowed Grounds coffee, you know?
In an unprecedented move, a fan of the film started an internet campaign to get the movie released on DVD. Going beyond simple fan petitions, Michael Allred created a web page consolidating every bit of news relating to the film and contacted many of the film's principals, including the writer and director Dan O'Bannon. He went on to put O'Bannon in touch with MGM, the studio that owned the film, and that actually began work on getting the film released, and that's why we have it on media now. Is because he put in all the extra work and he's like, I want this on DVD and we need to get this out there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
On the back of Freddy's jacket in the theatrical version, the words "fuck you" are displayed. After realizing the shot cannot be used in case it was ever shown on TV, a second jacket was made that says television version and can be seen in the TV version of the movie when it plays on TV.
Wait.
That's hilarious.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry,
So
I was thinking of Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And I was like, well, I don't remember that. No, never mind.
The shot of the barrel corpse, nicknamed Tarman, changing through the glass panel was done with a wax face over the skull, and heat turned up to melt it. The glass cracking was unintentional, but happened due to the heat.
That's actually awesome. That worked out hella good for them.
Yeah, that glass popping adds to that so much. Like if it hadn't happened the way that it did.
Yeah.
Also, I got to say, him slapping the side of that and bragging on the military's like engine core or whatever, and how their stuff never breaks down. That's a good laugh. That's actually really funny. Whenever it goes bad, and you're like, yep, some of their other stuff's went bad too in recent years as far as infrastructure. So they're not end all be all that everybody made them out to be. Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the zombie extras were paid a bonus to eat real calf brains in the film.
No, ew.
Dan O'Bannon didn't want them to do anything he wasn't willing to do, so he ate some in front of them.
I mean, good for him, but that's fucking gross. I mean, I guess it's got to be a lot cheaper to buy. I know they fucking sell that at certain markets, which I'm like, whatever. I don't want to yuck someone's yum. Mexicans,
yeah, with the tongues and the eyeballs and everything else they sell.
Hispanics will eat lengua, which is tongue, and I've tried it. I am not a fan at all. It tastes like fucking tongue.
Yeah, I'm not going to even try to eat it. Just like pickled pig's feet. I know that's a specialty of my people, but I don't like the idea of eating that whatsoever. So sorry.
Speaking of which, I'm dying at your Kentucky staples you sent me. And finding out that y'all eat Cheerios with bananas. I do too, but now I don't know if that's my Hispanic family or if it's like, is this something in California or is it my Texas family that does it? Because they're technically from the South. So I'm like, which part? I have to ask my mom now, like, where did we get this from? Because I love it. And then I passed it down to my son, but.
Yeah, a lot of those are just Southern, but like, you know, the ones in particular, like the fried green tomatoes and the macaroni and like tomato juice, I was like, they're in Eastern Kentucky if they're in any place when they're eating that stuff.
Macaroni and tomato, that's a no from me. I hope you enjoy that. I hope you love it to death.
I don't.
Okay.
I like macaroni and cheese, but that was the big thing growing up. That and some other things like bacon grease on like greens.
Actually, that's not too bad. I could see myself.
It's not terrible,
yeah.
But it's just like the tomato juice and all that. Just not my thing. I just never did like it.
All right.
Fried green tomatoes are awesome, though.
Oh, yeah, they
Highly
are.
recommended. The character Ernie, Don Calfa, is thought, this is great, is thought to be a Nazi due to the sharing his name with Ernst Kaltenbrunner. There are also character details that provide an indication of his past. He listens to German Afrika Korps march song, Panzer Roland and Afrika Vor, on his Walkman while he embalms bodies. He carries a German Walter P-38, has a picture of Eva Braun in his morgue, refers to the rainstorm coming down as Ein betrunken Soldat, which means drunk soldier in German, really knows his way around the crematorium, hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Oh, my God.
And seems surprised and ashamed when he learns the dead can feel pain. Dan O'Bannon in particular mentions that Ernie was intended to be an escaped Nazi in hiding.
Wow, okay.
And I don't know if this was intentional. The fact that he takes the girl and they're in an attic at the end of the movie.
No, shut
Just
the
saying.
fuck up.
Just say.
That's too. No, there's maybe. I don't know. That's hella funny. But the girl in the attic, they were trying to hide and help her. I guess he was trying to help her. Like he had a gun.
Yeah.
He was ready to. Okay, never mind. Okay.
And he was protecting her from the people who were trying to kill her.
A good old modern Anne Frank, everybody.
Yep. The lead pipe that Clu Gallagher uses in the movie is actually made of rubber because he initially used a real pipe, but the crew snuck it away from him and replaced it with a rubber one, as Dan O'Bannon was worried that Clu's frequent anger outbursts would cause him to come to harm.
Jesus
basically.
Christ, he was a fucking safety hazard.
Hey, there was a story they told on the More Brains documentary I was watching where he had like a can in his hand and he got really pissed at something Dan said to him, and Dan walked through a door and he threw the can as hard as he could and it exploded like right beside Dan's head, and like Dan ran off because Clu was like saying that he was going to beat him with a ball bat if he stayed in the room with him.
Fuck, dude. And the fact that he didn't fire him, that's actually kind of funny. I'm going to be honest with you. That shit's funny.
Miguel A. Nunez Jr. was homeless when he was cast in this movie.
Aww.
And what's even stranger is the fact that the character of Tina was originally supposed to wear a plastic miniskirt, and Beverly Randolph went through a variety of prissy clothes to see what felt like Tina and settled on that white and blue outfit that she wears in the movie, which is what Miguel A. Nunez actually wore on the set as his own street clothes, like the first day he showed up.
Yikes, I hope it was clean.
So Tina, well, I'm just saying that the look of it. So Tina,
okay,
as she's dressed in the movie, is how Miguel Nunez dressed in his daytime, outside the movie, which is really weird.
That's hella funny.
In a 2016 interview with the horror site Horror Geek Life, now this is the one you want to listen to about throwing the tea, Jewel Shepard explained why she took the role of party girl Casey instead of Trash. I was working in a strip joint. It was a private strip club. I guess what they would be called now would be doll houses or gentlemen's clubs, but this was very, very ultra chic and private. The bottom line was it was men looking at women, and then she laughs, and Dan O'Bannon came in there. He sat there and watched. I ended up talking to him because I found him fascinating, so we got along well, and he bought all the drugs, so that was all right with me. That's why we got along even better. We were friends, but he originally approached this girl named Legs and actually wrote the movie after her, or the character of Trash, that is. She was this really tall girl. I think she was like 6'1" with legs forever. And he said to her, I have this part and I'd like you to be in it. But she wasn't interested. She thought that he was a joke and she passed on it. He fell in love with this girl named Dee Dee, who had sort of a slutty Betty Page look. And then she was going to do it, but then she got pregnant. And so she wasn't interested. And so he finally offered me the role. He said he thought that I would be really great for the character that's now called Trash because obviously I took off my clothes very well. But I didn't want to be in a movie where I was naked and for the entire scene. I was already naked in all these magazines. I flashed my tits for the movie Raw Force. I was naked on stage, naked. She also added if I had done the role of Trash, she would have gotten an X rating. This is the T. Linnea is much more... she's not sexual. She didn't have a wow body or much of anything sexual about her. I have more of a sexual thing, and we were already having problems getting rated anyhow, trying to get in the rating board to give it an R rating. If I had done it, I would have definitely got it an X. So Dan said, well, you can't play the nice girl. You're not nice. Not like the nice he wanted, I said, but I'm a party chick. And he said, yes, you are a party chick. I said, I just want to party, and that's how I got Casey. So she's really throwing Linnea under the bus, saying that she's not sexual at all. Like, it's like that scene got approved because she's just,
she's so plain
sexual.
Jane,
Yeah.
It's just a good old, your average schoolgirl. Linnea Quigley danced very well. Enough that I was like, did she do that? Like, did she create that dance herself? Or
She did.
Okay. And I'm like, and it's not very stripper-esque, but it's not stripper-esque. It's like a nice in-between. It literally just looks like a promiscuous girl going up and dancing very well, in a sexy way. I don't know where she comes off saying Linnea Quigley. She had an amazing rocking body. Okay, she wasn't a stripper, but what was she doing to have that amazing body? And she had nice tits. Like, I don't understand. This girl's hella jealous.
The funny thing is that she knew Linnea because they'd done a bunch of titty rags together, basically. So it's not like, so she was like throwing this out there like, oh, Linnea's not sexual, but she'd done like basically, pseudo like Playboy type centerfolds with Linnea in the past, or around the same time. So that, I don't know, that's a lot of shade being thrown in that comment. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'm looking at Jules Shepard. I'm looking at photos of her from when she was younger too. Half naked photos, and I'm gonna say in the 80s she might have looked good, but she didn't look as good as she did. She got a little bit older. Something about the womanly form definitely looked a lot better on her. I would say Linnea Quigley was a lot more sexier than her, whether she was a stripper or not. I don't see any wow factor that's, And I'm sorry, a slutty Betty Page. Was Betty Page not slutty already?
That's what I thought too when I said, or when I read that. I'm like, okay, so I just wonder like her interpretation of what sexy is, because is it outright like getting on the dick, like, and riding it? That's the only thing I could think of. Like, because if you can't look at old pictures of Betty Page and think that she was sensual in any way, then I don't know what to tell you, because that's the whole point of what she did.
I mean, Betty Page just wore her outfits every day. She even went to church on Sunday. That's how, plain it was.
The eye test poster most clearly, most clearly after Frank and Freddie run into Bert's office after hearing the first reanimated cadaver, actually reads, "Bert is a slave driver and a cheap son of a bitch who's going bald too. Ha ha." If you put the letters together.
Okay, that's funny because I was trying to read it and I thought I read something. I know I read Bert is a something driver. I didn't get I couldn't read the rest. It was too blurry. So that's so funny. I was like, God, I hope he has that in trivia.
Yeah. When shooting Trash's gravestone dance, Linnea was originally completely naked and showed her pubic hair, as was the norm in the early 80s. However, producer Graham Henderson visited the shoot one day, and according to himself and others, threw a fit yelling at Dan O'Bannon, "You can't show pubic hair on television." Dan sent Linnea away and had her completely shaved, which coincidentally, Linnea herself found to be the most embarrassing part of the whole thing. Remember, shaved twats were not like a thing back in the day. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, too, because the guy who played the nerdy punk or whatever in the group said that when she came back and she was shaved, that was the first time he'd ever seen a shaved pussy in his life, period. Because that wasn't the way that they did things back in the day. Anyways, she came back with that, and Graham Henderson cried out again, "Oh, God, it's even worse. You could see everything." Which, yes, you would.
Yes, you can. What the hell, dude?
Ironically, the same exact thing happened to Matilda May's nude scene in the next movie that Dan O'Bannon scripted, which was Life Force. At this point, they sent Linnea Quigley over to Bill Munns and William Stout. Bill Munns was that guy that they fired for having the shitty zombies, by the way, where they made an alginate crotch piece resembling the bottom of a G-string and glued it on. According to Linnea, this was a bit of a problem since every time she had to go to the bathroom, they had to remove it.
Oh, my God.
Because of this, there are no shots of Linnea with a completely naked crotch area like a department store mannequin. Quigley joked once or that she has never had more attention focused on her vagina than when she was shooting that scene. Fans still ask if there's any footage of her with the pubic hair or uncovered shaved, but so far none have shown up.
I'm looking at still shots, I definitely can see front crack.
They really like plastered it down though, so they couldn't. I mean, it didn't really stand out.
It didn't separate for sure, which makes sense because I said she was moving and shaking up there. You would have gotten a little tiny bit of separation, but you didn't. That poor girl, because as I had mentioned when we discussed this earlier, is even in the movie 50 Shades of Grey, they gave her bushy meadows to cover her front crack, which is funny because it's not a thing in the 2000s. Waxed would have been the way to go, but because we're not making a porn here, I mean, I know what the movie is, I know what the book is, like I get it. I'm just saying they weren't trying to go for that. They were trying to water it down a little bit, and so you couldn't see her front crack. I was genuinely surprised to see her front crack in this. Poor thing. I actually kind of feel a little bit bad for her. I mean, good for her. She did it. She looked confident up there and everything, but that's fucked up. Oh, God, you can see everything now. You fucking think?
Yeah, that dumbass coming back and saying you can see everything. It's like, what did you think was going to happen?
You can't have pubic hair. Okay.
I've got another comment from her later in the trivia where she talks about like how she never had a problem showing her tits, but she always felt like weird showing anything else because she said she personally felt skeezed out by seeing like pubes or whatever. She's just like, she's like, it's classier just to show the tatas. And I'm like, you go, girl.
Yeah.
Do whatever you got to do.
No one's complaining, Linnea. No one's complaining. They can see your vagina even if you've got pants on.
After the rabid weasels are brought into the Resurrection Funeral Home and the tarp is removed, what is actually in the bags are motorized toy monkeys that have symbols removed.
Hell yeah.
In the early 90s, a longer work print of the film surfaced that ran 24 minutes longer than the released version.
Okay.
Alan Troutman said in a DVD commentary that one of the main ingredients of the tar of his costume was methocel. Methocel is a thickening agent used in milkshakes, and also one of the main ingredients of the Blob from 1988.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, Tar Man's milkshake does not bring all the boys to the yard.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Dan O'Bannon reportedly thought this movie would only be popular with horny guys, hence the amount of female nudity. On the DVD commentary, he claims that he was surprised at how many women were in the initial audiences and said that if he'd known he would have such a large female following, he would have shown Freddie's, a.k.a. Tom Matthews, naked as well.
Yeah, way to go, loser. Way to give nothing to the ladies. But I'm going to be honest with you. We don't like looking at penises, so.
It's funny you say that because somebody had that later in the trivia, and I kind of cut it out, but I was going to bring it up here. It's statistically proven that females are okay going to movies where there's naked women, but both men and women tend to avoid movies with naked guys.
I will look at a naked man's butt any day. I definitely enjoy seeing a naked man's butt. I will not lie. And it doesn't.
When they're hanging dong, though, you're not too fond of that?
I don't want to see. I don't want to see it. Now, we like seeing the V that men in shape have. Like, I don't even like men that are in shape, but I'll take a look at that. I don't like women, but I'll take a look at women. So that to qualify my statement, there's this, I don't know, super in shape guys have this weird V down when they have a 8-pack, a 6-pack, whatever.
You ought to listen to what they say about that V. It's to guide the woman where they need to go, is what they always say.
If someone says that to me, I'm going to fucking punch them in the face. Kick them right in the V is what I'm going to do. They're going to feel like they have a V after I'm done with them. But yeah, like show some chest, show the V, show some ass. We don't want to see the dick. We do not want to see penis. Begging you. And if a woman says she does, she's lonely and bored and she needs attention.
Yeah, and she needs to go watch some hentai with tentacles or something. John Russo previously teamed up with George A. Romero to make Night of the Living Dead. Afterwards, both men had different ideas for sequels, so they parted ways. While Romero was making Dawn of the Dead, an independent producer, Tom Fox, bought Russo's script. He set up production and gave a script to Dan O'Bannon. However, O'Bannon refused to direct it as written. He felt it was too much of a serious attempt at making a sequel to Night of the Living Dead and did not want to, quote unquote, intrude so directly on Romero's turf. That's why it was rewritten to make it in a fictional universe and based on true events, in quotes, with more humor up to the point where it only superficially resembled the novel. So he was basically trying to be respectful to Romero and say, no, you keep the serious zombies. We've got the goofy ones, which they're not really goofy. They're pretty fucking scary, but, it is what it is.
I think he did a good job with that. And I like that he did that. I mean, how much respect did Romero really get back in these days, especially today with the usage of his movies,
The Walking Dead in particular, I mean, he went to him and he said, you're kind of using my stuff, do you think you might want to get me involved a little bit? And they're like, no, you can go the fuck off. And that's basically what happened with that.
That's messed up. I hate that so much.
Return of the Living Dead invented the popularized notion in the public conscious that zombies specifically eat brains as opposed to simply flesh.
I don't like it.
And the zombies grown brains as they walk. It is also the first film to ever show zombies being able to run as well as able to speak and being in possession of more than base animal instincts. In a critical scene in the movie, a zombie who has killed one of the characters is tied to a table as a half torso, and she explains that they seek brains because that makes the pain go away, the pain of being dead. It is a popular misconception that Romero invented this specific trait in his Night of the Living Dead movies, although he has emphasized that it was not his idea. So when people always come up, and these had to be idiots that did this when they came up to him, and I can't even imagine. It's like, hey, man, I love your brain-eating zombies. And he's like, that's not mine.
Yeah. And good on him for, he's very humble, it seems like. I mean, he kind of had to be, but
he was the nicest guy if you met him in real life. He was very humble, and he just appreciated having people who liked his work.
Yeah, he probably was honestly, I imagine his answer being like, well, that wasn't me, brother, but thank you for liking my zombies anyways,
Yeah. The only thing that really got him up in arms is the fact that zombies running. He was always adamant that if they ran, they should just be infected humans. If they were zombies, they should be lurching.
And I think I speak for the both of us when I say we couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that part of it, because if they're going to be dead, their bodies should have rigor mortis and they should be affected by it.
Rigor mortis, they're decaying, they're falling apart, literally.
Yes. Clu Gallagher has expressed great pride at appearing in the film, even going so far as to call it one of the 5 genuine works of art that I've been a part of.
Even though he hated the fuck out of what's-his-name.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I don't know how to take that with Clu, because he's very sarcastic, like in a very dry way, so it's hard to tell if he's telling the truth on that, but I do think he likes the film, because he likes the more out there movies that he did in his time as an actor, so he probably does like it. But if I heard him say that, I would probably be sus on his intent with saying it.
I would think that it would be hilarious if he did say that and he meant it to be sarcastic, and everyone's like, oh, he really loved it, and he's like, motherfuckers.
He would be laughing at them behind their backs, because I get that's kind of his type of humor.
Yeah, probably.
The part of Bert was originally offered to Leslie Nielsen, who wanted too much money.
Oh, that would have been so good. I mean, do you agree with me with that? Do you think that would have worked out?
It would have been really weird to see, but it would have been interesting to see Leslie Nielsen instead of Clu Gallagher being the one who was like knocking heads off zombies and all that.
Hell yeah, dude. Naked Gun. That's what I'm talking about.
They offered it to Robert Webber, who hated the script, and they offered Scott Brady, who was too sick and actually died a year later.
Oh, wow. God.
Yeah, then they finally went Clu Gallagher right before the first day of filming. That one actor who played Suicide, the one that Linnea Quigley's like grinding on, he died like within a few years of this movie being released. I think it was like 1991 might have been his last movie, and he died after that.
Was it from AIDS because he was gay?
I don't know the exact details of it. I didn't look into it, but with the circumstances, it would not surprise me.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. I mean, that was happening a lot around those times.
It was. The executive producers attempted to contact George A. Romero several times in order to offer him the choice of producing the movie, but he never answered. In fact, Romero had agreed with his former writing partner, John Russo, that he would make separate sequels to the horror hit Night of the Living Dead, with Romero's films being referred to as the Dead movies and Russo's as the Living Dead. So I feel like that was more of George like giving Russo like his due. It's like, buddy, you do your thing. I'm not going to step on you. I'm going to go do mine and we'll be cool.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the relationship they had with one another. They separated, but they remained friends.
I can respect it.
The shot of the skeleton rising out of the grave and opening its jaw is a major disappointment to Stout, who was the producer. He had assumed it was a work in progress and not the completed effect. I was so busy being disappointed by other things, says O'Bannon, that I didn't have time to be disappointed with that one. It is, of course, and he was probably disappointed with some of the actors, and they were disappointed with him, so that's how it went.
Yeah.
But anyways, it, of course, went on to become one of the key scenes used in the marketing. Everything you saw for this movie showed that skeleton with eyes and its mouth open up being like the major thing. So the one scene that got that dude fired is the one scene that they used to market the movie with.
I'm sure that dude fucking hates it because that's fucked up. He's like, I got canned for this being horrible, but it's like one of the key things. And not only that, really, you're upset about that? Have we not talked about fucking jaundice? Fucking up in the fucking meat locker?
Yeah, they seemed perfectly fine with John the zombie. They never went back and tried to do anything different with him, so I don't know.
They focused their energy on the wrong shit.
Director Dan O'Bannon was originally supposed to play Frank, and he wrote the part with himself in mind, but when James Karen came in to read for the part, or for another part, O'Bannon was simply blown away and hired him on the spot.
Okay.
I think James Karen as Frank in both this and whatever character he plays in part 2 is great. Like, I love that character that he plays in both of them.
Yeah.
He's very skeezy in the second one, though, being a grave robber and all. But anyways, regarding the line where Frank tells Freddy, Tom Matthews, about the skeleton farms in India, O'Bannon recalls working with Alien on Alien and having H.R. Geiger request fresh skulls to aid in his designs. They were wrapped in plastic just like that, and they were the most beautiful skulls I'd ever seen, like works of art, and the teeth were all perfect. I was once told they were ordered from India. Toby Hooper suggested the skeleton farm line, and a few months after the film opened, O'Bannon read a report that the government of India had stopped all deportation of skeletons for medical purposes. He's unclear if the timing was coincidental or not. So right after they made this movie and they commented on how they get their skeletons from India, India was like, nope, not getting any more from us. Fuck off.
Well, yeah, I mean, because now they're like, fuck, they're onto us.
The Darrow Chemical Company that manufactured 2,4,5-trioxin in the film is based on Dow. Imagine that. Who is reality made the chemical defoliant in the 60s, commonly known as Agent Orange.
Holy shit.
So, unlike most movies that feature the undead, the word zombie is actually said in this movie by Tom Matthews during his conversation with Frank in the office about how the movie Night of the Living Dead couldn't have possibly been based on a true case since it depicted zombies taking over the world. So there's your Z word that finally made it into one of these early zombie movies.
Did it? I didn't hear the Z word.
Yep, just that one throwaway line. He didn't see zombies taking over the world, or zombies hadn't taken over the world, so that movie couldn't have been based on true events.
Oh, okay, I do remember that. I'm sorry, I'm a liar.
The scene where Tina falls through a broken... Then you got to listen to the scene where Tina falls through a broken step was done without Beverly Randolph's knowledge. It was going to be done. Dan O'Bannon had a false step put in while she was at lunch and told her to do a test run up the stairs. Just see how you can do it. And when she did, it broke through. She actually fell, banged herself up, and got bruised as a result. She said in a lot of places. And the reason why Tina just lays there for so long while the tar man is like coming down after her is because she physically couldn't get back up right after she fell because she hurt that bad.
Holy fuck, dude. I mean, it looked real good. That's fucked up. So wait, she was about to be on lunch. Was this just an actual test run, or was this like, did they have the tar man in place and everything? And they're like,
they had everything in place, and he lied and told her it was a test run and put the fake step in there so it would fall through.
I know you can't do that now because if she were to get hurt, she'd sue. But holy shit, dude! Like, what a way to get an actual. I could totally be fooled into that bullshit too. I'd be like, okay.
She said that her favorite things was seeing Clu Gallagher go after Dan O'Bannon with like weapons because she was only like 19 or something and she was too timid to do it. But when he did it, it was like she was living vicariously through him.
Hell yeah. That's hella funny.
The butterfly board was created by cutting photos of butterflies out of a book and folding the wings slightly before pinning them in. Stout was blowing air just out of the frame. The actor who played Frank, that Karen guy, he mentioned that it was a really simple scene, but it worked so well in the movie. He said literally that them fluttering their wings was just a fan blowing on it. He said for like a nickel, about a nickel or something, they got that effect, and it looks great as they're like, you know, moving around.
Yeah, it works.
So that's pretty cool. At around 19 minutes, the gravestone to the left of the large one upon which Trash performs her striptease has the name Archibald Leach on it, which is the real life name of the actor that we all know is Cary Grant.
Oh, shit.
So that's a neat little, you know, throw in there. Funny thing, reason it probably says something like that is that they got most of those tombstones from Universal. They were loaned to them from Universal Studios.
That's hella funny.
The film's German title is Verdammt Die Zombies Kommen, which is roughly Damn It, the Zombies Are Coming.
Oh, my God.
Which might be appropriate in several ways, considering Linnea Quigley's character. And the Danish title is Legene Leglade, which is roughly The Dead Don't Care, playing up the comical aspect of the film.
I mean, I feel like they do care. I feel like they do care about their pain, and they want to make it go away.
They do. Linnea Quigley originally danced to a different song completely. She's not dancing the song that's actually in the film. She was dancing to a song called Nasty Girl by Vanity. And that was later replaced by the song Tonight We'll Make Love Until We Die by Stacey Swain.
Which Nasty Girl would have worked. However, it was a little bit too pop for this movie. So I think that the song that she was dancing to worked out a little bit better. However, I could totally...
And the theme of it worked too.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that Nasty Girl was definitely the perfect song for her to get the moves to. Because that song, it's a very sensual, nasty song. I won't get into the details of it, but Vanity 6 was from Prince put that band together. Remember the movie Purple Rain?
Yeah. Yes.
She was, I forget what the band was in there, but she was the lead singer of that band. And, I mean, the girl's dressed in fucking lingerie, you know?
I'm sure that's not the same one that they've been playing on TikTok. The one that says I've been a nasty girl, whatever.
No, this is from the 80s. So this is that's a new song. I don't know. That's hella funny, that song.
Richard Rubenstein, producer of Dawn of the Dead at Laurel Entertainment, didn't want people to think his film was part of George A. Romero's, or didn't want this film to seem like it was part of George A. Romero's Living Dead series, and he was the one that tried to get the injunction to stop them from making this movie. However, the MPAA arbiters ruled in favor of producer John A. Russo, since he had co-written Night of the Living Dead and based this film on his own novel, Return of the Living Dead. In fact, Romero had long before agreed with Russo that he would drop the word living from all of his Living Dead from all of his subsequent sequels, and just went with Of the Dead. So it was, Romero was cool, and it was that fucking producer, which, by the way, Rubenstein is the real reason why in America right now you cannot find new media for Dawn of the Dead, because that son of a bitch will not let anybody make a 4K version in the United States without paying him an exorbitant amount of money. And they're like, all right, dude, fuck off. And so the only one that exists is one that was made in Britain by Second Sight Films. And it fucking sucks. It's like, bring the movie back home where it started.
Yeah, that sucks.
According to the recent released book, The Complete History of the Return of the Living Dead, The Simpsons creator, Matt Groening, came up with a tagline, "They're hungry and they're not vegetarians," which appears in some of the trailers. Another tagline he came up with was, "First they want to meet you, then they want to eat you," which was rejected by the studio.
What? That's hella fucking funny. Matt Groening is fucking hilarious. The shit he comes up with. Do you guys have the Simpsons rides at Universal in your guys'?
Yeah.
I don't know how good that is, but that shit is fucking funny. Standing in line waiting to get on the ride, the off the wall bullshit. I'm surprised that they get away with that these days with all the woke ass people.
The intro stuff to the ride is my favorite part, because they basically show like a negligent, carnival worker. Basically, it's a teenager sitting there telling you, it's like, just strap yourself in, and like he's not even paying attention to you.
He's reading his math book upside down.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh, dude, I love it.
The only thing bad about that ride is that it gives a lot of people really bad cases of vertigo because like the screen has not been updated in forever. And I don't think they can because Disney's being shits about it.
Yeah.
And the rumor is that the Universal is probably going to let it go because they're wanting to incorporate Pokemon in that space going forward.
I don't know about Pokemon, man. I mean, I do love the Simpsons stuff at Universal, but if they're going to be, if Fox is going to be dicks, well, Disney, I should say, is going to be dicks about it, it is what it is, you know?
And Disney's not going to use it for shit in their parks.
No.
It's like they're going to give it the Muppet treatment. They're going to give it one little semi 3D theater and say, there you go. Oh, and there's a pizza place that's got shit pizza. Enjoy that.
Ooh,
see ya.
The pizza's good in our place. I'm not gonna lie. And then they have the
Pizza Rizzo or whatever is awful down there at the one in Orlando.
Oh, okay. There is a soda. I forget what soda it's called. I don't know if you remember. Let me see if I can get it. What's the soda called? It's so good though. And then they told me what Buzz Cola.
Yes, it's sugar-free.
It is sugar-free. Now, they didn't have it at Universal when I went last time. We even bought like a refillable cup so we could just constantly get it. She's like, we're all out. She goes, but I'll tell you what it is. It's cherry cola.
Yeah, I kind of got that from the taste of it, which I like cherry cola. So, I mean, I knew what it was. It's got a little bit more fizz than just normal, like off-the-shelf cherry cola, though.
Yes. So it's definitely got like a different flavor, but she's like, if you absolutely, want to know, she goes, it's essentially, it's a diet cherry cola. So I was like, okay, cool. So we just did that. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to go again this year, but if we did, that would be, I want to try the Buzz Cola. Anyways.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I had it last year at HHN. So Tom Matthews got his ear pierced for the role of Freddy since the character's description specifically called for one. The dumbass later found out that he could have just used a fake earring for the role instead of actually getting his entire ear pierced. So, it was his first movie, his first real movie, so he didn't know any better.
Yeah.
He thought he really had to have his ear pierced. And I like Tom Matthews. I think he's like actually went on to be one of the better actors out of this whole like group that was in this movie. So
yeah.
Clu Gallagher was cast his first day of shooting. O'Bannon was worried because his vision of Bert was so precise, but he loved what the actor created. Of course, he got a little hysterical and punched me out a few times, but that's fine. I'll forgive almost anything for the quality on screen.
Oh my God, this movie's fucking wild. The BTS, I tell you.
This movie was punk in all the definitions of it. I mean, that word, that type of mentality. Tobe Hooper was originally slated to direct this movie, and it was supposed to have been filmed in 3D.
I feel like I would have liked the movie a little more.
He was busy on something else. He was trying to get he was busy, I think, in England trying to get some kind of a movie started up, and eventually he ended up getting the movie Life Force, which O'Bannon went on to write, but he was the one that O'Bannon was going to write the movie and Hooper was going to direct it, but then Hooper got tied up in other stuff. So,
okay.
The two heroes of the movie are named Bert and Ernie, with obviously an ironic reference to the popular Sesame Street characters, right? Nope. Turns out Dan O'Bannon didn't know he was using the names of the two children's show's puppets. He just made those names.
Whatever, man.
The Tarman Zombie is performed by actor and puppeteer Alan Troutman, who is best known for his work with Jim Henson and the Muppets. Tarman proved so popular that Troutman reprised him in Part 2, Return of the Living Dead, and the character made a cameo in Return of the Living Dead, Grave to the Grave, which we will not be covering because after 3, they turned to hot shit real quick.
Yeah.
So no.
I'm good.
According to Linnea Quigley, everyone else hated working with Dan O'Bannon because he was so intense and demanding, but she didn't have a problem. She felt he was a genius.
I mean, he probably liked the ladies. He was probably a lot friendlier to them. Fuck, he bought drugs for one of them.
He didn't like Tina, but she wasn't showing him, her body. So that's probably the difference.
Wow.
Brian Peck, who plays Scuzz, also appears as another zombie in the movie who is clawing his way out of the grave. Like they needed a scene to show how the water was getting down to the graves.
Yeah.
And so they had him just put on like a quick suit with his face, like it's always to his back, so his face didn't have to be covered up. And he was the one that was digging his way out of the grave or whatever in one of the scenes. He also did the original stand-in voice for the female that was on the gurney that was, talking about how brains and, but then they went back in and ADR'd in a woman's voice after the fact.
I like that.
Special effects guru Tony Gardner, who we have covered before, who does the Chucky stuff now, was the one that built the split dog. And O'Bannon went on to say, if I'd had a bigger budget, it would have been a split Great Dane. Just because.
I felt bad for the dog. It was crying a lot. That's what we talked about. It was in pain.
It was, but the only way to ease its pain was to give it brains, and I don't think that's a good substitute for that.
I wouldn't want to do that, no.
Linnea Quigley once talked about her several nude scenes in this and other films. She said, it's a part of life. Guys go to the beach to see girls in bikinis. It's just guys being guys. It doesn't make a difference if I'm wearing a bikini or not. And more often than not, she wasn't wearing anything. One major movie periodical noted that she had the best breast in horrordom, and her response to that was, at least they didn't say the worst, and then laughed about it. She said, I take that as a compliment. What are they going to say? Her acting is like Meryl Streep. Nudity is a big part of a lot of my films. The guys get upset if they don't see some breast. Quigley realizes that where her appeal lies, and she knows her audience isn't there for her acting. As a result, watching her creatively disrobe has become a ritual in all of her films. She has, however, refused to appear completely nude, although she was going to show pubes in this movie, saying, to me, it doesn't look good on screen. She explained it looks less silly. Usually if I'm nude, there's not a sex scene. It's just silly stuff going on. Full frontal nudity takes away from that. When you're watching a movie and you see a pubic hair, it's not fun anymore.
She was full frontal.
She had her limits. She did, but it wasn't her thing that she normally liked to do.
Okay, I was about to say, maybe after this she stopped, but yeah, okay.
But she liked to show her breast off, and she had some good ones, so good on her.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies from that time period that she made where she did that, and guys can go out there and look for them. Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers is a pretty decent one if you want to go watch that.
I'm sure it is, Reverend.
There are two versions of the song Party Time by the band 45 Grave. Now, this is pretty dark. The band recorded the zombie version of the song that's used on the actual movie soundtrack, which mentions the events of the film, but that's not actually the one they play in the movie. In the cemetery scene following Trash's dance, the band's original version of the song is about a 5-year-old girl who's beaten and raped and then murdered by her own family, and that's the one you can hear playing in the movie.
Jesus fuck!
Yes.
Holy fuck, dude.
That song is dark. You should look up the lyrics to that song. It is a dark fucking song.
What is it called again? Party Time. Oh,
Party Time.
Yeah, I think I've heard about this song. I've heard about it.
Also, John Russo received story credit despite the only similarity between his original treatment being the title. His story was a direct sequel to The Night of the Living Dead, taking place 10 years later and dealing with a trio of sisters being menaced by looters in the countryside when the zombie plague mysteriously begins again.
No, I don't
this
like
movie
it.
has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
O'Bannon wanted yellow smoke, and apparently the only way that the production team could make it was with sulfur. They is quoted as saying, just a few minutes shooting in there, I had a blinding headache. It was horrible stuff.
Yeah, it probably smelled like fucking rotten farts.
Well, also sulfur, I believe, might contribute a little bit to carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's probably why he was so bad off.
No, thank you.
Although the movie is set in Louisville, Kentucky, it was filmed in California. The only scene actually filmed in Louisville was the shot of the front gate of Louisville's Eastern Cemetery. However, the Louisville police uniforms and patrol cars were all period correct, so they actually did go and make those look like they did in Kentucky.
Interesting.
Jewel Shepard said that after she was cast as Casey, director Dan O'Bannon was looking for suggestions on actresses to play Trash. Shepard suggested two: Linda Weissmeyer, who was a playmate at the time, and Linnea Quigley. She knew Quigley really well because they both posed nude together for adult magazines, and they were always doing girl naked stuff. Shepard said O'Bannon auditioned both, and Linnea had the more dry personality that they were looking for Trash.
I mean, makes sense.
So
I bet you that Jewel could not act for shit.
No, she couldn't, according to that guy who, was saddled with her throughout the entire movie, the poser, punk guy.
Yeah.
He said she couldn't, and he tried to give her tips, and she just basically gave him shit the entire time.
What?
I guarantee you that quote that she had that was throwing Linnea under the bus, she probably had some, like, if they worked together, like if they were in some of the same, like, areas as far as, like, nude magazines and stuff, she probably had, like, a frenemy type situation with Linnea.
Oh, yeah,
like
she was jealous for sure.
Yeah. And then finally, La Magruta de los Cadaveres, 1976, a short pulp novel by Spanish writer Juan Gallardo Munoz, a.k.a. Curtis Garland, roughly translates to Dawn of the Dead. Hilarious. Predates the main themes in this film. It is about an indestructible brain-eating zombies revived by chemicals. That's kind of weird that existed. I wonder if Dan O'Bannon might have. It's possible he didn't, but also, I mean, if he claims he didn't know Bert and Ernie, I think the man was a liar. Just saying.
It's funny because La Madrugada de los Cadaveres is like, it's like the daybreak of the cadavers is what it is, but it also translates to dawn of the cadavers. I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep saying it that way. Dawn of the cadavers. That's so funny. I'm sorry, I couldn't, and I read everything, but like, I can't get over how Spanish, when my Whitezican brain translates it exactly word for word. It doesn't translate, because you're supposed to read that as a sentence, and yes, it is technically Dawn of the Dead, but it's not. Because technically Muertos is dead, and so I feel like it'd be like Madrugada de los Muertos, but it's not. I don't know. I'm confused. I am a confused Mexican right now.
All right. Thoughts and ratings. I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go right into the rating. This is maybe a 3 to 3.5 for me, because it was good and scary, and the action was going. The action was going and flowing, so that's what keeps it high up there for me. I was not a huge fan of the acting, and I don't know. I feel like I got more eye rolls. The comedy wasn't hitting as hard that I would have preferred, and neither was the horror. It wasn't as scary. I don't know. I don't know what was going on with that. Still scary enough that like, if this movie was on, I'd watch it. So I guess it doesn't bother me. It's not one of those amazing films that are so good I'm not going to watch it again because it's that scary. So I think 3.5 is where it's going to be at for me. Okay.
I'm going to cheat. It's a 6 out of 5.
Oh, you asshole.
And guess where the extra point comes from?
Linnea Quigley's butthole?
Yes. No, her tatas.
Her tatas,
specifically.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I feel like it'd be a 4, but then the tatas are a point each, so it brought it to a 6.
Okay. if that's the way you want to go with it. That's actually not too bad. But yes, I mean, the fact that I'm still scared by this movie, at least I get tense during this movie. I do appreciate the comedy, even though I'm too worried about Tarman showing up to really be that into it. And then of course Linnea Quigley. So it's definitely a 5 out of 5, but I'm just going to cheat and say it's 6 out of 5 because that scene.
You're
you don't
literally
get that
the
in most
worst.
horror movies.
I guess so. I think just want to say how fucking funny it is that this movie didn't scare me hardly nearly as bad as it does you. And I know we have our different things of what scares us, and I'm scared majority of the time. It's just funny to have that one episode, this being one of them, where it's like, this one affected you way worse than it affected me.
It still does. Like I was sitting there and just the scene where they're inside and they see all the paramedics pull up the second set and all those zombies come rushing out or whatever to take them out. And or especially even the cops when there's like 4 or 5 of them and they all open their doors and just instantly they're just mobbed by all those zombies. Yeah. I'm like, it just, I got tense the entire time I was watching that. I'm like, yeah, this movie still does it. Still fucking, puts me on edge when I watch it, which is good, and I guess in a way.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe it. Like I knew it would have I'm surprised it's not a 5. Obviously you gave it a 6, but I knew it was going to be high because of the fucking titties. You and Noah just put this movie on a pedestal. And I knew I wasn't going to be impressed by the titties. So I knew that wasn't going to bring my score down or anything like that. Yeah. I get what the scene adds to this. I do think she's kind of a cool zombie towards the end. I kind of wish they'd made her look more like a zombie. I don't understand why her morph is so much different than everyone else's. It's not really explained to me.
So here's my thoughts on that. She could not be a hot zombie so that we could have the hottest zombie be the one that's in part 3.
Okay, but did they know part 3 wasn't even an itch in the pants?
No, I'm just saying that's my headcanon for this. That's the reason that they made her into a monster with that basically collapsible jaw or whatever, was so that Matilda May, or who I think that was the actress who did it, who is the actress that played in part 3, she could become the hottest zombie in existence.
I think if anything, it just goes to show that no matter what the woman looks like, you guys would totally hit it. Like with her John head, you'd be like, wow, what that mouth do, I
don't see. I'm not that way about her zombie version. That zombie version creeps me out, but her right before the dance, and she, totally the best that I've seen in a horror movie as far as that goes.
I think a majority of guys would still hit that. They'd be like, hell yeah. Like, it's hard to find a 10. So it's like, okay, well, she's got TNA. I'm good with that,
Yeah, and she's still showing all the goods. Just she might. It's a praying mantis situation. You know that you're not going to have your head after it's all over.
Yeah,
with.
Exactly. You're gonna give her head, like we mentioned.
All right. We will be covering part 2 and part 3 in future episodes. I do have to go back and rewatch those, however.
Okay. Oh, well, it's a good thing I watched 2 then, because I'm already set for that. I just need to watch 3 now, which I remember enjoying that one. So we'll see how it's held up. I think I've only seen that movie maybe 2 or 3 times when I was younger. We'll see how it holds up now that I'm in my 40s.
I will tell you this, even though 2 allowed me to go back and rewatch this without all the majority of the trauma, 2 has like aged very poorly for me. It's aged like milk. Like I love the part at the beginning of it with Tom and the actor played Frank in this one, but when it gets into the main movie and you have that doctor and how goofy he is and some of the other stuff in the movie, I just roll my eyes anymore when I watch it. I was like, did I really enjoy this so much? And I did. I loved it as a kid, but I can't anymore. I can't with that movie. It's just too goofy.
I have to give it away. The one thing when I saw it again, I was dying because I completely forgot about it. But when the zombie head is rolling around, well, they want to get the zombie head out of the house because obviously, what's his name brought it in with the bag, and they get a screwdriver and he drives it in and he throws it out, and the zombie's like, "Get the damn screwdriver out of my head!" And I was like, "Oh my God!" We used to say that all the time when I was a kid.
That line, yep. And the one that always sticks in my mind is the end of it when a certain pop star shows up and has to do his little Thriller dance for a second.
So fucking dumb.
All right. With that, folks, peace be with you.
And with your spirit.